Right on.
Even for Evenepoel, who almost ran out of teammates. But he didn't see Adam race. The reason he is getting so excited is
shorter than Montlesoir.
Been looking so good recently. Landismo might be alive, but it's not going to be the Landistas' big day, is it? Disappointing for the big Basque superstar. 23 there is Jonathan Caicedo in the pink as well. The rhythm being set at the front.
Alaphilippe now on the front.
It's done a lot of damage, isn't it? Louis Vervaeke is the rider just behind him. Then you have Evenepoel, and then it's L'Enfant Wilder just sitting behind Evenepoel.
It's Pidcock as well, just reaching in his pocket. Oh, there's some damage being done, isn't there? 81 k's to go, and look at the peloton.
In the breakaway, they're giving each other a right kicking still, just trying to fight to stay out there as long as possible. Lubert, we've seen how strong he's been this spring, just struggling on this hillier terrain. Been out in the breakaways and cobble classics, hasn't he? He's had to fight to get back on there. On this downhill now into the base of the very steep, nasty Côte de Stokke. Kilometre long at 13%.
I'll tell you what, Rob, I'm happy I'm not a bike rider now. Racing, attacks going for 80k to go, riders going out the back 100k to go before even an attack has come from within the peloton. It's just even looking at the breakaway, just riders just hanging on. Come on, get through, do your turn. I can't, I'm knackered. It's just full gas.
Let's not forget
front, middle, back, wherever you are.
Along the way back in today, Adam, I know in a certain number of these roads they won't feel it as much, but there's tailwind and it's building as the afternoon goes on.
Yeah, and they're on that tailwind now. They've got tailwind sections that they're on. Majority of the climbs are tailwind. They are majority as well in the final. Last few of them are sheltered quite enough, apart from La Redoute, of course. The riders that are trying to get any draft off the wheels with a tailwind up the climb, it's going to make it even harder for them.
Sheffield on the radio here. Balmel, by the way, at the back is a passenger because he was in the breakaway. Tratnik in the yellow who started the move. Madouas was the other rider who followed, but he's been taken back by the peloton. You wonder if that was the legs talking or whether he was told to be back in the peloton there.
I can't imagine he'd be told to go back to the peloton. I think just he didn't nip up to Tratnik, did he? It was a big effort to get up there, try and follow the attack. I can imagine that just not quite having the legs.
It would also explain why Groupama went out in the breakaway today as well. Of course, Gaudu they knew wasn't feeling great, not fully recovered after his illness. Madouas perhaps something of the same, and it was a give it a go job, and obviously the go hasn't pulled off, has it?
No, it definitely hasn't indeed. Matthias Livier there just suffering, trying to get Zimmerman to come through. I think the next climb we'll see him disappear out the back, just trying to get shelter, just try and hang on for as long as he can, but I think on his next climb that we'll see the end of him, sadly.
Minus Sheffield, who's already won a hilly classic. It was the hybrid race. Brabant-Sapele, the Flèche Brabançon last year. Plenty of hills similar to this, and a few cobbles as well. He won that in the rain, didn't he? Always one of the most entertaining races of the season. This Tratnik asked Balmel to come through, but you can understand if Balmer's not going to do that, having been in the breakaway all day. Look how narrow these roads are as well, Adam. It's certainly going to make them continue to keep fighting and riding in this peloton behind. That's what, around 10-15 seconds behind this group, and 1 minute 25 seconds behind the 6 riders left in the breakaway today. Approaching Eddy Merckx's playground. Côte de Stokke. There's a statue of him at the top. It's a steep descent in, and it's a horrific climb out. A kilometre long, 13% the average gradient. Average gradient.
Flipping steep, Rob.
And here we go. It's the Stokke. 1 kilometre of horrible, horrible roads. The first half a K at 9.9%, and then you're talking almost 15%. We're in the heart of the Ardennes. It's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and the race is coming alive. Zimmerman at the front with what's left of the breakaway. We had 11 men up the road today, a gap of around 4.5 minutes, controlled brilliantly and aggressively by Soudal Quickstep. Pogacar crashing out after 8 kilometres, 80 kilometres I should say. And now Remco Evenepoel with his team fighting for every corner, pushing through every bend, who's bossing it behind.
I mean, Alaphilippe's not playing around there, as he can just see him off the front of that peloton, putting bike lengths into his teammate Van Wilder. They are pushing on and controlling things brilliantly. I'm going to play devil's advocate. So far, they're bossing it. Still a long way to go yet.
What will Evenepoel be feeling here? I mean, he's a confident young man, isn't he? And he doesn't give the usual bike riders interviews where he says, we'll see what the legs can do. We'll have to wait. He's confident, but he's got to be aggressive, and he's got to back it up on the bike now, because his team have given everything for him. As we can see, the riders who attacked from that group are still out in front, but only just. They've got around 15 to 20 seconds now on those chasing behind. The man in the yellow is Jan Tratnik, the former Slovenian champion. Just on his wheel, the young American Magnus Sheffield from the Ineos Grenadiers. Now keep your eye on this group. It's already thinned out. Let's see what's left in it, because again, I get the feeling that at the front we're not seeing it, but just by the shape and the way they're reacting, Soudal Quickstep are going hard at the front, and again it's Alaphilippe. Look at this.
Yeah, they are motoring at the front. Tratnik, you can just see how strong he is. He's just dropping Sheffield. Now we know these climbs are steep, but Tratnik, the way he's been going so far from what we've seen from him, attacking in a place where we didn't necessarily see him attack, and he's got rid of riders one by one here. Sheffield, the next victim to go off of his wheel. I'm trying to think if this is too early for Remco to go. We know he's good at time trial. You'd think it's too far to go, but just how strung out that peloton is. I think I did see as well. Look how steep this climb is. This is not pretty. Paulus, sorry, back to what I was saying. Paulus right towards the back 3F. Not the best place to be right now. You can see how narrow the roads are, trying to move up on gradients like this. Hard work, very hard work with the way Soudal are riding.
And the gradients like this in the second half of the climb are up at 15%.
Yeah, short, sweet, and deadly.
Take out the sweet if I were you.
Yeah, it's not that sweet. Tratnik is motoring so far, 41 seconds. He's got to 190, and I'm not sure how accurate that is, but we can't see them behind. Alaphilippe's still on the front. 500 metres to the top for the peloton.
Now, riders who are up there on his wheel are number 45, number 145, I should say, from Agedezet, Ben O'Connor. And just behind him, Aurélien Paré-Peintre. They're the riders from Agedezet. Warren Barguil up there in the red. In the pink, you can see Ben Healy here. 131 is there is Stef Kras for Total Energy. 66,
Mohoric,
the former winner. Mohoric is there as alongside the former winner, Wout Poels. 22 there is Hesmond, the young man from Germany who's good in the Tour de l'Avenir. Now further back here as Tratnik gets further up towards the break at 43 seconds from them now. You see Sheffield was looking behind him, and Tratnik is putting in quite the ride here. So past the statue, over the top they go. The break has got the Stocker done. And the break is now only 5 men strong.
Only 5 men strong and 5 men to tackle this next 1.6 kilometres before the next climb starts, Rob. Not long at all.
The rain as well now, Adam. You can just see a few more spots coming down.
Even more of a reason to be right towards the front. We've not seen Remco moved off that third wheel yet. Doesn't matter which teammate it was, but he's right up at the front, never slipped back.
Look at Healy, though. He's moved up since we last looked, and Benoit was just doing the same there. They're ready just in case.
They're ready just in case, and I think Benoit's in a good position there. He could just follow. If he's able to follow and can just, recover on the wheels. He's got Tratnik out in front, so that means if a group goes up the road, he can just sit pretty in the wheels. Follow. Doesn't have to give them a turn. Depends who goes, who he can follow, and how long he can follow them for. But Tish, we know he likes these roads. We know he likes these climbs as well.
Esteban Chavez was just moving up on the right-hand side too. Romain Bardet was well placed in the black jersey towards the front. And this is Magnus Sheffield. Going backwards here, number 45, Matthias Pastens. And Benoit Cosnefroy struggling to hold on at the back in the white jersey for Agedezet as well. Lot of casualties today. This is a really reduced peloton at this stage with 75 k's to go.
Wonder how long Quickstep can hold on for. This next section of climb, the section they're on now, the climbs come very, very thick and fast. You know, there's not more than 5Ks in between it. Once they get over this climb, 1.6Ks till the next climb, so it's not long at all. They'll be on that NA minute now. And they've got 7 kilometres from the top of this next climb till the bottom of the next one. Then it starts to spread out a little bit more. So now if Quickstep can, wouldn't surprise me if they can ride for all the way through these next 2 climbs, but after that, with the distance in between and the pace picking up, maybe more attacks coming, how much support will Remco have left after that is my question, and will that leave him then to attack even earlier than what we're expecting him to?
Do not move wherever you are. Stop whatever you're doing. It's time to watch uninterrupted for the next 75 kilometres. Next climb, Haute-Levée. And you've got that lead in over the cobbles as well that gets me every year. It's categorised at 2.2 kilometres long, but my is it longer. 7.5% the average. You can see the start is the most difficult part of this, the first half a kilometre, and that's at just under 12%.
Yeah, a hard climb indeed. Tratnik, we've got to keep an eye on here. If he's at 35 seconds, he's motoring. I don't think he is. I don't think he's put that much time into the peloton, but, well, saying that, he's onto the bottom slopes to climb. He's off the cobbles.
He's just coming past the sign that we saw him go past. Yeah, I think that time gap's right, you know. 38 seconds now. Lebel behind. Sheffield's still giving his all behind. He hasn't sat up. And Tratnik's certainly not sitting up. He leads Vesna's behind now. Again, a look at the computer. Checks the numbers are all right. And just taps away that big, strong rhythm.
Looks good, doesn't he? Smooth as silk. The body's not moving, calm in the face, calm in his shoulders. He just looks like he's going almost 50 seconds into that peloton in what, the space of 10K? The
Jan
2
Tratnik
climbs
is a
that he's done as
Rolls
well.
Royce of a bike rider, isn't he? He's a fantastic bike rider. He can time trial, he can attack, he can do just about everything to a fairly good level. He's been a stage winner of Grand Tour at the Giro d'Italia. He's 33 now, and since he's moved to Jumbo-Visma at the start of the year, hasn't raced too often, but he's looked strong every time he has raced.
There's the peloton just at the bottom. You can see behind all the motorbikes in between, right at the bottom of the climb. Yeah, Tratnik, Rob, back everything you've said up there. Just a brilliant rider and a man that you'd like to have in your team for generally any race.
Could be a very big asset at the Giro d'Italia for Primož Roglič. Now then, movement behind. This is interesting. This is very interesting because Bahrain Victorious are there, being followed by Healy and another of the riders.
I think it was Mohoric and Sivakov.
And it looked as though Remco Evenepoel only had one man around him again there. Let's have another look at the front if we can.
Alaphilippe at the back there, Rob.
We're getting down towards maybe 1 or 2 teammates max for all the big leaders now, and that includes Remco Evenepoel, because he's had a couple of teammates working for him. Now, does he have 1 or 2 left here? You'd imagine that it's Vervaeke and Van Wilder. There's a bit of a reorganisation there, I think, when Julian Alaphilippe finished his job, and that meant that there are a few different bodies at the front, but they've got reorganised again, and this should now be, I think, Vervaeke. Let's have a look. This is certainly Velasco. And he's going out the front, trying to last as long as possible with 1.2 kilometres to go on this Coupe de la Haute-Levée. 4 riders getting back onto him, as Tratnik is now 40 seconds behind the breakaway. He's still a good 45 seconds in front of the peloton, however.
Yeah, it did look to be Mohoric on the front of the peloton as well, and that technical downhill, Mohoric just trying to put the pressure on down the downhill, open things up a bit, just cause gaps basically. We've seen that Alaphilippe was right on the back of that group there, so still hanging on but not at the front anymore. It is, I think, Vervaeke, as you said, but it might be Andrea Baggioli that's just sat now in front of Remco. But as you said, Rob, that's 2 men to try and control things for Remco now. If more attacks start to come, which they're looking like they're doing, that's a lot of responding that Vervaeke and Baggioli's got to respond to.
It's a 3 or a 7, isn't it? 3's Bajoli for Farka, I think. And Van Wilder is certainly in front of...
Van Wilder, sorry, apologies, yeah, Van Wilder, apologies, Rob.
Van Wilder is certainly the man in front of Evenepoel there. And Healy's right up to the front. You mentioned Sivakov. There is Mohoric in the red jersey. Behind Balde in the black and the yellow, it's Benoit. Giulio Ciccone sitting nicely there, just in front of the other EF rider, who is Esteban Chavez. Skenmoser, who's Ciccone's teammate in the red and white. Ben O'Connor in the white. Paje Pantres with him. There's Quinten Hermons in the blue. And this is a man we saw off the back already before. He's been suffering with a bit of illness as well the last week or so. Benoit Cosnefroy, I'm afraid, is out the back. He managed to get to Eddy Merckx's statue just about with the peloton, and he was happy midweek because he had to have a photo taken with Eddy Merckx back at the hotel. But there'll be no photo on top of the podium this year for Benoit Cosnefroy.
Still looking all right, isn't he?
No question. It is all for Evenepoel. Only been back down at sea level for a few days. It's Thursday he returned. Bit of a reconnaissance mission with some local cyclo-tourists and behind a motorbike, actually. Top of the haute levée for the breakaway. 25 seconds in front of Tratnik. A minute and 18 in front of what's left of the peloton now. That was the group we just saw, being led by Soudal Quickstep, who need to save their spring. They won in Depana. They won in the Nokere Koers. That's all they've had from the Spring Classics. Not the sort of return they're used to. Here's Tratnik.
He is motoring, Rob. A minute now. No, not quite.
Alaphilippe. Trying to get back in and give something else. Let's have a look. Oh, he's back on that bunch again. Well played.
Yeah, just right at the back of the bunch. He's still in there. He's got the abilities to move up on the downhills, to snake his way front. Just a couple in front of him, Mollema. And you've got the rider from Jumbo-Visma, Attilia Valter as well.
This is Sheffield about to be caught, by the way. He went in that attack with Tratnik. Let's not forget that Madouas was there as well originally. He was caught about 5 minutes back.
I'm impressed by Healy here, Rob. Very impressed. The riders at the front, you know, the big name riders, Healy is turning himself into one of those riders, but no teammates around him, just on his own, put himself right behind Remco. You know, he's taking this race on not his own, but he's not giving the responsibility to his team. He's taking that responsibility, putting himself in the right position, and just giving himself the best possible chance he can to do well in this bike race, to win this bike race. There's not many riders who've got announced to do that, to go and put that much responsibility on them. They'll look for the team all the time, but Healy doing the opposite at the minute.
Next climb up will be the Col du Roisier. We're ticking them off one by one. 5 categorized climbs remain. 71 kilometers left. And look at this. Adam's getting excited because he's looking at the time gap and he whispers to me 1 minute. 1 minute. And that is the minute that Tratnik now has on the peloton.
It's still a long way to go. 71k on the train he's on. It's a very long way to go still, but to do this pretty much on his own. He's had a couple of turns from Sheffield, who was dropped by this man. We have to remember who's riding behind the, you know, we've got a full team under control. We've got riders going out the back of this peloton, and the man out in front, Tratnik, is putting time into these riders, which are also getting rid of riders from behind them. He's motoring. If he gets across the break, they might help him as well, Rob.
Ricosta in the middle there for Intermarché, still in the bunch. Former podium finisher here, all the way back in 2016. That's seen a few champagne showers, hasn't it, that place? Famous motor racing circuit at Spa.
Oh, one of the Porsches here on the Eau Rouge, I think it is.
That's the famous. Is that the famous? I mean, you're going to have to help me out here. I do not know my motorsport.
I think that's the fast one.
I don't even have a driving license, Adam. But is that the famous corner, or is it the climb?
I think it's the corner and the climb. Eau Rouge. I don't know. I'm guessing. It's the fast downhill one that they go meow meow up and down.
What do they go like?
Meow meow.
There we go. We always get a wonderful image of the place, and it always strikes me again as somebody who does not know the first thing about motorsport, how much elevation there is in that circuit. It looks really impressive from the air there. Every year we see it. Almost as impressive as this man's race. But look what's coming up. Oh, those unclassified climbs here.
It's a bit where Chetnik would like to be with those riders in front now, just to get them working together a bit, get a little bit of recovery. This road on your own is a hard, big one. 300 metres off the back of that group.
You're watching Jan Tratnik, the 33-year-old from the Slovenian capital, Ljubljana. Racing for the Dutch team Jumbo-Visma for the first season now. Moved over from Bahrain victorious last year. Back in the peloton, there's a quick opportunity maybe to get some mechanical assistance, because I'm not sure Tom Pidcock has had the best 5 minutes or so. It looks as though he might have been escorted back there, I'm not sure. Or comfort break, I mean, I'm not sure. There's a lot going on, Adam, at this point.
I'm not sure. Tish Benut's at the back and he was right at the front as well, so maybe just a little bit of a comfort break. He's got Omar Freiley around him, Sivakov as well, so, and we've seen also this man back on the front now as well, Julian Alaphilippe, so maybe just a little bit of an easing of pace and allowed Pidcock to stop for a nature break. Maybe that also allowed Alaphilippe to get back on the front.
Well, we did see him fighting to get back on the back and hanging on the back, and it's a good job using every ounce of energy from Julian Alaphilippe. Coming up to a really nervous point in the course, actually. Oh, he crashed last year. It was a different race situation at the time. The bunch was much bigger.
This rain is going to help the likes of this breakaway. Just stay away for that little bit longer on the downhills. Not so much the up, but the run-ins, the climbs, the twists and turns will help slightly. The road's been wet, the peloton not be able to go down there just as quick, especially for this man here.
Jan Tratnik is within 13 seconds of making it across what was, when he set off, around a minute and a half gap. It's taken him about 3 climbs. He's had a little bit of, I was gonna say help then, but I think back, he's just ridden everybody else off his wheel, hasn't he? He's done it all himself.
Yeah, he has done it all himself. It's impressive. There's going to be a heck of a fight now, though, coming in down this hill. But just seeing Tratnik go around that corner, we'll see the teams on the downhill start to try and move up more as Alaphilippe puts his glasses in his helmets, gets some fresh air on his eyes.
Evenepoel watches at the back and waits for Varka in front of him.
Bardet's right up towards the front there as well.
There's him waiting. There's Costa moving up as well. Left-hand side is Royal Premier Tech moving to the front.
Right on.
Simon Clark doing all he can to help. That's all that's left, though. There's 67 Ks left here.
It's unbelievable.
67 kilometers remain in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. If you're just tuning in, Tadej Pogačar has crashed out of this race after around 84 Ks of racing. Joining him, I'm afraid, in that crash was Mikel Honoré. And this is all that's left of the main peloton. It's been ridden at a rocket rhythm, this race. Soudal Quick-Step have been the main instigators of all of that. They kept Remco Evenepoel at the front all day long. Jan Tratnik, though, has attacked from the main group. A couple of riders tried to follow him. Valentin Madouas was one. I think along with him as well was Magnus Sheffield. The latter hacked the pace a little longer, but none of them have been able to stay with the Slovenian. He's now 8 seconds, make that 7 as I finish the phrase, from joining the 5 remaining riders of the original 11-man breakaway. Still at the front, Jason Osborne, an Olympic medalist in the rowing here. A world champion in esports on the Zwift platform, is alongside Georg Zimmermann, strong German rider who's in the break on Wednesday. Paul Ursulin, who's in his 4th break in 5 years at this particular race. Lars van den Berg, young Dutch racer for Groupama. And Simone Velasco, who's been around for a little bit now. He races for Astana, Kazakhstan. And he's going to get there here. What a ride from Jan Tratnik.
What a ride, and what great timing as well, because when he gets onto this climb, I'm going to say this one would probably suit him better. The next climb that's come up, Col de Rossière, 4.5 Ks long at just over 5.5% average gradient. So quite a long one, and one for Tratnik that will probably get settled into a bit of a better rhythm on than a short and sweet one. But yeah, he is motoring.
So Jan Tratnik is about to make it across. 65.4 kilometers remaining, and we're approaching the foot of the Col de Roisier. 5 becomes 6. So if you're Jumbo-Visma and Jan Tratnik, you made it across here. The gap's 1 minute 4 seconds. What do you do next, Adam?
You just book him a business class seat to that Giro, because crikey, he's looking good. Just take a little bit of recovery. You've opened that gap up, 1 minute 6, 1 minute 4. He's done nothing but gain time so far. So just these 1-2 minutes of recovery before the climb starts, and he can settle back into that rhythm again that he's been putting out on the climb. If riders can stay with him, great. Try and get the help off of them. But ultimately for him now, recover on the wheel a little bit before the climb starts, get back into rhythm and get back on the pedals, because this peloton is only going to get quicker. We've yet to have more attacks, so he can get that advantage to as much as he can at the top of the next climb. He's got 10 Ks before the next climb after that, but it's majority downhill, so it's looking good for him now. What he's doing so far, he's got a lot of climbing still to go, but the way he's been riding and the point that he's caught him on now and the length of this next climb suits Tratnik, I'd say.
Matthew Dinham in the black jersey on the radio for DSM at the back. And this, yet again, is a man who needs no real introduction. Julien Alaphilippe. He thought he won this race 3 years ago. Had his arms in the air. Rainbow jersey on his chest then. But he was beaten, pipped to the post by Primož Roglič, who went across the line first, as Alaphilippe was celebrating. A year later, he was second, beaten by Pogačar. Last year, he had an awful crash that conditioned his whole year. But now, he's giving everything for his teammate Remco Evenepoel, who is the current world champion. This is what it looks like at the front. Tratnik's not far from the business end already. He's already had that very brief rest, and he's contributing to the front. And he goes into the start of our next climb, 4.4 kilometers long, the Côte du Roisier. He starts it at the front, setting the pace and dictating what happens to the rest.
Yeah, I don't think he'll probably look around as well and ask for a turn. He'll want to just settle into his rhythm. He knows what he can do. He knows what he's done so far to catch this group. So just settle in. Don't worry about the other riders on this climb. If they can hang on, great. Over the top, you can get some assistance on the downhill. A little bit of recovery again for the next climb. But I think for Tratnik up here, he'll just settle in and just concentrate on trying to keep that gap opening and open as much as he can, or holding it. I think Remco Rob's going to go on Laredo. Bottom to top, full gas.
That's where he launched his attack last year, 29 kilometers from the finish. Still another climb after this before we get to La Redoute.
Short one though, isn't it? It's only 1.6k at 7.4%. Easy peasy.
Only.
Oh.
I mean, the difference as well is here that there's an extra climb after La Redoute this year compared to last year. I mean, normally the Côte des Forges in the last few years has been the climb that's come towards the end, but not the last one, the penultimate climb before Rochefort-Faucon. Now, last year, there was still a lot of flood damage in the area, and we couldn't use the road. This year, it's back on the menu, so an extra climb for Remco Evenepoel or whoever decides to go on La Redoute if it happens. Talked about Mark Hirschi earlier on.
Still there, isn't he?
10th wheel. One man going backwards, though, here is Johan Mains. He was in the original breakaway this morning, so to be expected. And same for Fredrik Dvernes, rider from Norway.
I was going to say that gap is slowly starting to come down here. I wonder how long Alaphilippe can do in the front. We've seen him on the front already. Went to the back, recovered a little bit, got back to the front, and he's doing another job. He'll probably try and get to the top of this climb.
Also now the latest to suffer from the rhythm. Sorry, Adam.
Sorry, don't be silly, Rob. There's another one as well. Vandenberg as well, just in front of him, suffering with that pace that Tratnik's setting. It's no surprise, really.
107 the gap. Groupama with their day, playing it in a slightly different way with Gaudu-Il doing his best for his team before we think dropping out.
Zimmerman.
Madouas not able to follow. Zimmerman, as you said, the latest to go out the back as well. And he's ridden well today, strongly but not strong enough here. The only men holding on are Osborne and Velasco. And it's all Jan Tratnik. And we're only about a kilometre into the climb.
Yeah, he is motoring. You can see how strung out the peloton is. It's a relatively fast enough climb that you can get a little bit of shelter from, as we've seen the riders just sitting on the wheels. But make no doubt about it, this is a hard climb. And the way that Tratnik's going up there, just riding riders off his wheel. I know the rides have been out in front for a long time, but Tratnik's ridden across to those riders. He's not asking them for turns, he's just dropping them one by one.
What a bike rider. Of course, he suffered last year having to miss the Giro d'Italia after a crash. Such a strong rider. Demonstrated it at Bahrain. This is Alaphilippe continuing to demonstrate his generosity and his power. It's good to see him back at the front of a race, albeit today in a different role.
Yeah, he's holding that gap of what Tratnik's setting as well. Not gaining on it at the minute.
That's good enough, though, for Evenepoel and company, though, isn't it, right now?
It is up until that point.
Oh.
I'd
so
say.
Varka turns over.
Two riders left once again now. Remco still, they've got about, well, 2.8 Ks to go with this climb, so just under 3 Ks to go. They are a minute down on Tratnik and that group, but only 2 riders left in front of Remco at the minute. Healy's still glued to that wheel of Remco. He's expecting that attack to come, isn't he? He's waiting for it to come, making sure he's right at the front, ready to follow it.
On the radio here, Evenepoel. Healy behind him, as you said. Attila Valter's moved up as well, so Jumbo-Visma looking stronger with Tratnik in front, Valter and the other man, Tish Benoot behind. 32 here towards the back is Laura Zeplus. We've seen him active and in form this week at the Tour of the Alps. And Alaphilippe fights himself, fights the bike, fights to just hold on again as long as possible.
Wouldn't surprise me if Alaphilippe can hold on, and if he does hold on, being able to come back over the top as he did the last climb, went to the back, recovered, hung on over the top, then got back to the front, did another turn. If he can keep doing that, it'll be brilliant for the Soudal Quick Step, but I think with the length of this time, still 2 Ks to go, will be very, very difficult for him indeed.
Jan Tratnik at the front of what's left of the breakaway. 11 men down to 2. Tratnik attacking from the peloton, and we have a Trident at the front of Liège-Bastogne-Liège with 61 kilometres to go. 2 kilometres remain of the climb they're on, the Col de Roisier. And he's actually extended this gap by around 3 or 4 seconds since the bottom.
Oh, the next riders go. Jason Osborne just losing the wheel ever so slightly. Still 2Ks to go for this climb as well.
This is the longest of the classified climbs in the race, so this is the one that will most suit Tratnik, that sort of steady tempo. But let's not forget, he's just done a huge ride to get across. If you're just turning on, this is all that's left of the peloton. And that is Alaphilippe done. That is Alaphilippe done. He's done a superb job for Evenepoel today, who, by the way, is not up against Pogačar after he crashed out earlier in the race. We think he has a damaged wrist.
Ride on!
A great ride from Julien Alaphilippe, and just lovely to see him back on the road.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. Job his team leader, the young world champion, Remco Evenepoel. Thanks for coming. Remco must surely be looking around in that group thinking he must still be confident, but 2 riders left. Will the team start to look around and think, let's try and isolate him a bit now, let's put the pressure on? What can 2 riders do? Van Wilder's been riding on, Vavaka's been riding on the front on and off for the last, what, 10k-ish? How much has he got left? What can he respond to? Then you've got Van Wilder just sat behind him. And if riders will start to try and take advantage of that.
Jumbo-Visma already tried to get rid of a rider or 2. Paul Ursulin is the next to be called.
Ineos Grenadiers move to the front. Yeah. He's got Omar Freile with him. Sivakov, who has just come out of the Tour of the Alps as well. 1-day recovery. A little bit of a flight up to Belgium and then straight into this, but he's on good form. He did well in Tour of the Alps, and he's obviously got the legs still up there in that support role. Being able to bully Healy, well, move Healy off of the wheel as well of Remco.
Laurens de Plus still trying to hang on at the back as well. Another man who's come from the Alps. We already know that Michał Kwiatkowski's gone out the back today. Connor Swift did a lot of work earlier on. Magnus Sheffield was up there in that chase, wasn't he, before he was caught. Could not keep up with Tratnik. Almost 700 metres on the road, by the way, translating to a minute and 8. And only Velasco is still there getting the Tratnik motorbike ride.
Definitely wet roads now as well, Rob. Not patchy wet, they are fully wet roads. So the descent, Tratnik still holding that tempo as well. 107, it was 107 at the bottom of the climb. 108, 109 at the top. Just look how smooth he is though. It's like a rock.
He's just a solid all-rounder, isn't he? He's won time trials professionally before. I think he won one in the Tour de Romandie, the opener, a few years ago. Still in attack. He's not a serial winner, but he's got some big victories on his palmarès. That stage in the Giro d'Italia, the main one. Next to be caught will be Vondenberg and Zimmerman. Vervaeke's just brought a few seconds back here. 103 now with 59k's to go. Velasco comes through to give a turn over the top. It's been the Tratnik Express from bottom to top though for 4.5 kilometres. And this is Osborne.
Just looking at the route map. The descent, how technical it is. The next one they've got coming up now. Until the bottom of the next climb, they have roughly 10k's, 3.5%. A few tight turns at the top, relatively fast roads all the way down into the bottom of Spa and on to the next climb.
Unfortunately, the peloton will all know all about the roads going downhill in this part of the region after what happened last year with that mass crash. It's a much smaller group here. Looking over the high moors and hills of Wallonia, the Ardennes. Big hunting grounds up here.
Not a great time to have a bike issue there on top of the climb.
The former Danish champion Masfords. Here's Vedvaka on his wheel for Wilder, then the world champion Evenepoel as they start to fly down this hill. And Chavez still with Healy, Valdez still there in the black.
K's an hour, big wide roads in the ascent, see all the way around them. 62 k's an hour. It's be Tratnik's time to recover now, just take some breaths in and get the legs loosened off. He's got 10k of it downhill before they start the next climb. Ooh, yeah.
Well, those roads now are very different to the dry roads on which they started. It was sunny at the start of the day in Liège. The rain has started to fall as the afternoon's got on. They rode the first half of the race into a headwind. The tailwind has been picking up as they've made their way back to the big industrial city that sits at the heart of the Ardennes. It's there in 56.5 kilometres will finish. Jan Tratnik at the front of the race now with Simone Velasco.
Just see Tratnik just putting his head down, trying to get as aero as he can. Just asking Velasco for a few little turns, just momentary little bits of recovery. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, just something. Just trying to look head right down, trying to get as low as he can, aero as he can, trying to save as much energy and go as fast as possible.
A minute. Pidcock moving up onto the wheel here of Evenepoel, who's on the radio. Mohoric not far behind. Red jersey on his back with those yellow markings. There's Healy in the pink. Everything is raced today. Descents, ascents, lefts, rights, tight roads. Look at this, even little gaps here. And of course the peloton will be wary of this road.
They will. The man that's leaving that gap is a very experienced descender, as you know, Matej Mohoric, just getting tucked right down low. Saving the eggs so he can freewheel, use that draft off the wheel so he don't have to pedal to stay on it. A very efficient ride runner downhill. .56 seconds now. Sheffield moving up once again for the Ineos Grenadiers on the right hand side. This is the point that Tratnik doesn't have the chance to have, which Vavaka has, sorry, is that Vavaka can ride full gas down here knowing that he's got another rider to do the work behind him. He can have that recovery if he needs to, whereas Tratnik doesn't have that pleasure. He's just got to focus, commit, ride his rhythm, and he will ride down here a little bit slower because he won't want to push on as much. He wants to push harder on the uphill, so try and get as much recovery, but he's still trying to keep the speed as much as possible, whereas Vavaka's got a job to do, and that job is not the finish line. It's coming up very soon.
Lawson Craddock here, just off the back. Weather really closing in the last 15 minutes or so, isn't it?
Just making things even more difficult for riders in the peloton today. They've already got all these flipping hills to climb. Never mind deal with the wet roads as well.
Facing all those really steep off-camber narrows, all sorts to play with here. And the road service out here in the countryside, not always the best, as Tratnik asks but gets a no.
It's an odd one, because isn't it? Velasco's obviously suffering, but he's had the legs to keep up with Tratnik up a climb. I think out of respect, just give him a couple of turns at least. Tratnik quite happy with it. He's like, fair enough, I'll just crack on, do what I need to do. I think on a downhill like this, if Velasco can just give him, as I said, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, just something to give him a little bit of recovery, it'll take them both further. Gilbert's house. That's what you get if you win Liège.
There's a few visitors today. For some warm refuge if your race is over. Osborne staying out there. Effectively, his race should be over here. Should be trying to hang on for as long as possible. He's had a good strong day in the breakaway as Louis Vervaeke continues to chase. This descent's been good, hasn't it, for the peloton so far? They've taken 15 seconds back in the last 4 or 5 Ks.
Yeah, I was just starting to wonder, this job that Soudal Quickstep have done, they have blown the race up, but they've not taken anyone out of contention that we would necessarily expected to be taken out of contention, you know? All the riders who are expecting to be up there still are still up there. Remco's only got 2 riders left in front of him. Yes, he's Remco, and yes, he can do Remco things, of course he can. But it's the isolation that I'm worried about. There's still got a couple of climbs yet to come, and you'd think 51k for Remco, is it too far to go on his own? Possibly not. It's probably not too much for a worry now, but it's on these flatter sections now. If attacks start to come with some of the bigger names, and Remco's only got 2 riders left, that could start to become very difficult to start to pick moves and which one to follow, and does he have to start following all of them? It's a good job, but was it needed, is what I'm wondering.
Obviously, the race plan since the start of the day was take control and make it hard. Of course, things have changed with the opposition slightly changing, but as you say, the rest of the opposition, minus Pogacar, still there. The only riders who we've seen drop out seem to have had issues with illness, the likes of Kuznetsov, Gaudu, Mas, etc. All the leaders remain.
All the leaders remain, all the riders we expect to remain there. And as we said, Soudal Quickstep down to 2. It's only in for the inevitable of Remco's attack, but was it needed to bring it down this much, this early, and isolate the team this much that early on? They've been at it since 100k to go, pretty much, this.
Not long till we find out, Adam. Because 50 kilometres remain. Tratnik's gap's down to 38 seconds now. Thinking about what his team can do, remember they only started with 5 today. 2 COVID positives for Omen and van der Sande. But Tish Benoot, alongside Attila Valter, have been sitting nicely in the peloton, not far behind Remco Evenepoel and Soudal Quickstep.
Come on, Simone, give Tratnik a turn. At least one.
Welcome back to you, television viewers. It's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. It's La Doyenne, the old lady of the classics. Almost 260 kilometres of one of the hardest feats in professional cycling. Made more difficult today for the moment by Soudal Quickstep making it a fast race. But they've only got 2 riders left to support their leader, Remco Evenepoel, the world champion, who's racing back in Belgium for the first time this season and racing a one-day race for the first time in 2023. They're up against Jan Tratnik, who's attacked from that peloton and is with the only remaining rider from the breakaway, Simone Velasco, Astana Kazakhstan's Italian classics rider, just sitting on the wheel and trying to hold on. The gap was at 1 minute and 5 seconds at the top of the last climb. They've descended along the long descent from Col de Oisier, and they've lost half a minute in that time, with Louis Vervaeke just pulling on. They're now approaching the next climb, which is the Côte de Dernier. And once again, they come thick and fast. After that, La Redoute, Forges, Rochefoucauld, and then the run into Liège, and Evenepoel is on the radio. All of his rivals sit behind him. The last 50k promise to be fascinating, Adam Blythe.
They do promise to be fascinating indeed. This is going to be an exciting final here. I'm just waiting for when Remco's going to go. I'm predicting La Redoute, so not this climb, the one after it. As Attila Valter comes to the front. Oh, there we go. Trying to get rid of that motorbike, which is understandable. I think we can... Remco saying calm down. I'm not surprised you're saying calm down when you've got a motorbike in front of you.
Was Ilon Wilder as well, shaking his head, unimpressed completely there. But you also understand Attila Valter's point of view there. I mean, that's exactly what they all do, isn't it?
Of course. It's not the bike rider's fault that this happens. It's not at all. They can't do anything about it. If a motorbike's there, you're all a bike rider. You'll get as much draft as you can from a motorbike, from another rider in front of you. Whatever it is, you'll always try to get on the wheel or whatever it is, or get a little bit of shelter. I can only think with Tratnik being out the front, is down that downhill, that they might have had a good cameraman, sorry, in front of them, getting the angles.
There'll be a few good pictures, I'm sure, of Jan Tratnik out at the front, former Slovenian national champion. This was Attila Valter on the left-hand side a minute ago. Cyclocross season's not for a while yet. Hungarian national champion. Pampe Lopez still in this bunch, alongside Giulio Ciccone and Matthias Schelmoser.
So those white shorts are double-lined.
I bet you started a right old debate on the socials there, because I know it's in this polarised world we live in, it's one of the most polarised debates possible, isn't it?
Come on, there's no debate. White shorts look mint.
For you there isn't.
Listen, name a rider that didn't look good. Well, name a great that had white shorts on. Torhoshov, Gilbert, Remco.
I'm just saying
the list goes on.
I'm just saying the opinions differ forever, not necessarily you and I. Anyway, on with the important stuff. PP looked good in everything, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
There's Valter at the back after that little move left and right. The notes in there. Another rider still there is Michael Hesman. I mentioned young German rider, part of a crop of good youngsters. Jumbo-Visma going nice and deep into the race, and having to do today, given they only started with 5 riders.
Tratnik's back on the gas. 36, 37 seconds. He's opened it up only a couple of seconds, but he has started to open up that lead again. 1.2 Ks until the top of this next climb. Then it's downhill, fast downhill for 10 Ks then until the famous climb.
They're all famous. This one though at 8.1%.
It's not too bad, this one. You can see the road ahead now. Summit 1,000 metres as you get through those signs there. You see it kicking up in front of you. Open road, slight cross tailwind up here now as well for the riders.
The Côte du Desnier added to the route a couple of years ago in place of the old Maquisard, which used to come at this point. And yes, you alluded to the famous climb, because up next is La Redoute, in the race since 1974. A big moment in the day, a huge moment in the day. Last year was the winning moment of the day. I have to say it's the most iconic climb in the whole of the Wallon region. Tratnik will know that. No stranger to the Bergs, training at home in Slovenia. Beautiful place to ride your bike, or just to visit, to be honest.
Don't go too far from it in the Giro.
Of course, that final decisive stage, stage 20, the uphill time trial in the Julian Alps. This is stretching out again now. 42 seconds. And a look back, that is Mark Hirschu still in the race. Second 3 years ago, and sitting in the peloton. Has his opportunity to go for it himself. Today's got the buffet ready, as you said. Bauke Mollema was still there. Trek Sigafredo been quiet, but they're still strong here.
This is what I was talking about, though. The amount of riders that are being dropped. It's all the riders still. Oh, here we go. Mollema.
Now then, right on cue. And Pavel
Sivakov.
Sivakov is going to chase. So can they isolate? And yes, look around, because Evenepoel had to think about it there until Van Wilder came across, because that has done for Louis Vervaeke for the minute.
This is the point now where it gets dangerous. Remco's got one teammate in it. The attacks start to open up. There's no way Van Wilder can just control these attacks all the way down to the bottom of La Redoute. The attacks will come. If it stays together over the top of it, it'll be 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, trying to get away from Remco before the bottom of La Redoute.
Keep your eye on this. Evenepoel's there, still chasing. Van Wilder's doing most of the chasing for him. We were just saying, weren't we, the numbers they had to throw at this Trek Segafredo. And now it's Sivakov there. Mollema's going to be caught, so that fire's been put out. But there's one man less to do the riding now for Remco Evenepoel.
One man less. They've got about a kilometre before the top of the climb, just under. And they get over the top, as we spoke about. They've got a fast downhill coming up for the bottom of La Redoute, but now one man less. You'd think that Vervaeke would be able to hang on up here, get over the top of that climb and get back to his teammates. But he's just opened it up. Seems to be a tradition, this, of Velasco's. Just coming over the top on the top of the climb, and I can... Oh, and that's our answer, Rob. Louis Vervaeke will not get back on by the looks things over the top of the climb, but I don't know what Velasco's playing at. Trapnik just looking at him. He did it on the last climb, just coming past him.
King of the Mountains prize. Place on the podium for the most aggressive rider. Can only think that's it. There'll be creams and prizes, won't there? There'll be €100 here and there, probably for each climb.
But just give them a help trying to get them anyway. Don't just rely on him to take you to the climb and nip past him.
Strung out once more as they come over the top, 33 seconds in arrears of Tratnik and Velasco. And with Louis Vervaeke out the back, Remco Evenepoel only has Ilan van Wilder as his final teammate, with 45 kilometers still to go. And we still have to head to La Redoute, the place where he attacked from behind a flurry of teammates still last year.
At top of the climb last year, and I think this will be the difference this year. He attacked on the top when it was not grouped together, the pace was still being set, but I think with one teammate left, and we saw videos, I'm going off of the videos, you can see him on the radio now trying to talk, just try and find out a little bit of information. If he backs off too much, he'll start to get more and more of attacks come from other teams, as you just saw from Mollema. He's still there on the right hand side, Mollema. But I think if Van Wilder backs off any more, they'll start to get the old 1-2s coming in. There's a lot of teams still in there with teammates in there that can put the pressure on. Yeah, I saw videos of Remco going hard up La Redoute, testing himself, doing an effort. Looks to be a reconnaissance of how his effort might look like if he was going to go full gas. I can only imagine with one teammate left, he has to go sooner rather than later. And the next climb being La Redoute, you can imagine it's that one, but from bottom to top.
There was all the talk, wasn't there, of the Strava segment that he set, but then, of course, he was motor pacing at the time, so it didn't count as an official record, a new KOM. But he was obviously expected to come out of a group of several riders setting a fast pace, and that's not going to be able to happen here. So La Redoute next on the menu. And we'll be at the top of it in just over 10k's time. Evenepoel, as you say, just on the radio, and just after that he was flicking through the pages on his GPS as well, looking at what was coming, maybe the bends, it could be the numbers, all sorts of things.
He's on the radio as well a lot now, and you can just see this slowing in the pace. It wouldn't surprise me if they were slowing to let Vervaeke get back on. In the cars, get back on, get another man to the front, ramp up that tempo again, so he's got a little bit more support on the climb with Van Wilder. Just see backing right off, but this is good for Trapnik. 39 seconds now, once again going out even after the attacks. All riders in the peloton, all of them freewheeling, apart from Mohoric moving up on the left with Bilbao.
Former winner Pools up there, just sitting alongside a former teammate of his. I say former teammate, they weren't teammates at the same time, but former rider from his team, Magnus Sheffield.
It's growing, Rob. 45 seconds now.
alongside those from Ineos Grenadiers. And now there's collaboration.
Finally.
.43 kilometers to go, and 46 seconds is now the gap as Velasco starts to ride. There's a slight slowing up in what's left of the